All right, remember we drew on the outline of the headstock. Now we've got to cut it to that outline and put the tuners in. So we're going to start over here at the bandsaw. Got this neat fixture that Ben made. The reason we need this is that I want these cuts to be vertical to the headstock, not to the neck, not like that. Got to raise this way up high now. That's got to fit under there. And I will say to those of you that do woodworking, and I'm going to talk shop safety here, you know, this is one of those that you've really got to think about, like how you're doing it and what you're holding. And you can see that this fixture has places for me to hold there and there where my hands are well away from the saw blade. So I'm going to use that as a push stick, and I'm going to use that and that to guide. First thing I do, I make that cut. Now, come right down my pencil line. All right, got it trimmed. Remember, I want everything to be square to that plane. So I've got this simple fixture, rides in my slot, and it raises that up. So now I'm sanding with a supported surface. Never cut or sand without support. You can't freehand up like that. It's always laying on something. And if you start out up here, it's going to go slammo into that. Don't let that happen. All right. First thing is my radius. Now my sides. Careful here. You're really supposed to sand on this side of the disc. Here, the disc is coming up. I've got to hold that down carefully. And there's going to be a lot of dust. Can't help it. Check fit. Very light. It almost fit perfectly. Going to be very careful with this. I do not want to oversand it. I'm barely kissing the sander. Okay, so I want to talk to you about a couple things that we did there that are just important technique-wise. One is, as you saw me sanding that radius, I didn't just go flat and round the sides. From the very beginning, I started that radius. Again, I'm using my hips to do it because I'm going to get a better, cleaner, more bump-free radius when I do that. So. And from the very beginning, even when I was a 1/4 inch away, I started and I wanted to establish that curve so that all I was doing every pass was just thinning down, taking a little more off and a little more off. If you start with a flat, it's really hard to, in the end, get the radius you want. This is our drilling fixture for the tuners. You can see there's holes on the back, that are going to fit into a pin on the drill press. And because these are peg heads and I don't want tear out, I'm going to have to flip this over, which means I need this to fit in here perfectly. So you saw that I went back and back and back to the sander so that I got a perfect fit. I just can't have any slop at all, or when I come in from the backside, these tuner holes are not going to line up, and that wouldn't be a good thing. How many minutes do we have on that?
5.5.
Let's keep going. All right, 7mm holes here. Depth stop right there. Stop it after every time. Clear it off, because I don't want any tear out. These are exposed holes. I start slowly, score the edge of that hole. Go in. Score. Now we flip. So you can see, in order for this to work, this has to be in there perfectly, and the whole fixture and drill press has to be perfectly aligned. Flip it over. In she goes. Very tight fit. Love it. Very important here with this Port Orford cedar to get a good score. Drill bit was clean, I didn't have to touch it. All right, last part of this is just going to be to remount those holes. Those were 7mm starter holes, but the peg head tuners that are going to go in here are tapered. Forgot where my taper was. Very expensive and important piece of tooling here. That gives me an idea, that tape, of how far I can go. This is just a rough. So when I advance this, I'm really trying to turn this quickly, and I'm putting very little forward pressure on the reamer. I am letting the reamer basically advance itself. And as hard as we tried on this, I got a little bit of tear out. I don't know if you can see it or not. So part of the reason that we do that reaming when we do it is that when I go to shape the neck and clean this up, I can sand back that. And there's a little bit of room for me to sand back that headstock. All right, see you in the next episode.